A journey always begins with the first steps. These first steps will dictate whether a person will continue in that journey or move on to another one. The Tower of Genesis is the first tower that most modern Ito players will be stepping foot in. It is here where players will decide if they want to continue through the game or if they want to give up. That is the tower's primary goal. And its secondary goal is to serve as a tutorial for the basic fundamentals of Ito and obbying as a whole. Today I will be going over the tower floor by floor in an attempt to see whether or not this tower does its job. I will be trying to make this into a series where I cover each tower individually and make these review videos on them. I hope you enjoy. When a player first enters the game, they will immediately be put into Ring 0. It is here where their attention will be directed to the Tower of Genesis. When they enter the portal, they will be spawned outside of the tower. This is where they will look up and see how tall the tower is and the challenge that lies before them. After entering the gates, they will be greeted with floor 1. This floor is very simple. It has no complex gameplay besides kill bricks. However, they do not kill you, they only damage you. This is a great time to introduce that mechanic, as if players are coming from other obby games, most obbies have insta-kills rather than damage bricks. After crossing their first tightrope, the player is introduced to a truss, and they're told to climb it. And when they do, they will enter floor 2. Hopefully, the player will notice a change in color. This change in color signifies the change in the floor. This floor introduces 3 new mechanics to the player: spinning platforms, swinging platforms, and the push mechanic. None of this gameplay is that hard, and the player should be able to breeze right through this floor. Floor 3 introduces the first pushing platform. It is nothing too difficult, but it allows the player to mess around with the mechanic. This mechanic will be expanded upon later and become much harder, and this floor does a great job at introducing the basics of it. It doesn't require any complex knowledge, doesn't require any complex strats to accomplish it. You just hold W until you get across. The rest of floor 3 involves dodging kill bricks, and then the player is introduced to the safety net feature at the beginning of floor 4. This safety net prevents them from falling down to any of the previous floors they had just accomplished. While not in most towers in the game, safety nets are a core feature and will play a big role in harder towers coming up. The music gets tenser in this floor, signifying the change in difficulty. While this floor is obviously not difficult for experienced players, I've noticed this is the point where new players begin to struggle a little bit. It is also in this floor where buttons are introduced, and the idea of button progress. After continuing through an extension in the frame of the tower, the player reaches floor 5. This floor is focused on more wacky gameplay and vertical spinner variations. These spinners will cause more trouble for the player than the horizontal ones. It also gives the player very significant button progress. After pressing the green button, a truss appears all the way from floor 4 to the middle of floor 5. This button progress allows them to skip all of floor 4 if they fall to that point. After heading through another extension, the player reaches floor 6. The spinner gameplay gets more complex, and the player will be shown that sometimes falling is the only way to progress. Because going through towers, it isn't always a straight line. Sometimes you have to fall to rise farther. At the end of the floor, the player climbs into the clouds, showing the height at which they are at, showing how far they have come in this tower already. This is the first outside section that the player will ever encounter. However, it is netted. If the player falls into the clouds, they will be teleported back to the beginning of the floor. The tower, just like life, will not always be this forgiving. This stretch of 2 floors, while netted, shouldn't be underestimated by new players, as these 2 floors contain, in my opinion, the hardest gameplay of the tower. It is where I've seen most new players that I've introduced to the game struggle the most. The player will have to time their jumps more on swinging platforms, and have to complete some simple ramp gameplay. Floor 8 is especially where I've seen beginners struggle. Timing the jump to get to the button is especially hard for new players, as they have not fully mastered how to move, unless they have already played Roblox Obbies before. After reaching the end of floor 8, the players go back inside the tower. Floor 9 is where the vibe of the tower ramps up. The music gets more intense and the atmosphere darkens. However, floor 9 is not that difficult. It's not much harder than floors 4 and 5 that the players already accomplished. Floor 9 more serves as a prelude to what is to come. After climbing a truss, the player is introduced to floor 10, where they immediately climb a staircase. Once they get to the top of that staircase, they see a white orb. When they touch it, they get teleported outside. Black cinematic bars appear at the top and bottom of the screen to represent the intensity of the final challenge before them. Now the player has to use all the knowledge they have gained throughout the tower in one last challenge. However, the player keeps pushing. Until finally, they reach the top. They see a pushing platform, and after pushing it through the gates, they are able to look back at what they just accomplished. They can also look forward towards Ring 1 to see what lies ahead, as their journey has only just begun. The Tower of Genesis is the perfect tutorial for this game. It introduces basic mechanics, while still allowing room for them to be expanded upon, as the mechanics themselves never got that hard. It gives the player their first sense of accomplishment, a feeling that they just accomplished something difficult. Even if they didn't struggle on it, they feel like they want to conquer more. And this gives the player the drive to go and conquer more towers. And in my opinion, that is the perfect way to start a game. I would like to end this video by thanking anyone for reaching this point. I do want to continue this series and give reviews on more and more towers until maybe we could review them all one day. I hope that the quality of these videos will keep getting better. So I thank you for watching, and I will see you all next time. Goodbye.